clinically significant group of parasites located in blood and tissue that move by means of flagella known as the hemoflagellates belong to the genera Leishmania and Trypanosoma. So we have four morphologic forms of clinical significance associated with these hemoflagellates. We have the amastigote, promastigote, epimastigote, and trypomastigote. So pwede mo maghimo og inyong um, mnemonics para remember mo og mas dali ani, okay? So the transmission of all hemoflagellates is via the bite of an arthropod vector. The major difference between the two genera is the primary diagnostic form found in each. For Leishmania, it is the amastigote, and for Trypanosoma, it is the trypomastigote, with the exception, of course, of the Trypanosoma cruzi, in which amastigotes may also be found. So para ma-speciate ang Leishmania and Trypanosoma, this heavily depends on the patient's history and clinical symptoms. We now go to the morphological forms of their parasites. Okay? First is the amastigote. So the average roundish to oval amastigote measures by 5 by 3 micrometer in size. So para matansya ninyo kung sa kadako, so the RBC, the average size of the red blood cell is 6 to 8 micrometers. So the amastigotes, the average is 5 by 3 micrometers in size. So dili siya nga nakalayo kadako sa RBC. Okay? So the amastigote contains a nucleus, a basal body. Here is the nucleus. We have the basal body and the blepharoplast. So the large single nucleus is typically located off-center or eccentric. So wala siya sa center. The dot-like blepharoplast gives rise to and is attached to an axoneme. Ayan. The single parabasal body is located adjacent to the blepharoplast. Ayan. And kinetoplast. Yan. Kinetoplast is an umbrella term often used to refer to the blepharoplast and small parabasal body. Okay. Next, we have the promastigote. The typical promastigote measures 9 to 15 micrometer in length. The large single nucleus, the large single nucleus is located in or near the center of the long slender body. The kinetoplast, here, the kinetoplast is located in the anterior end of the organism. A single free flagellum extends anteriorly from the axoneme. So the main difference between the promastigote and amastigote is, of course, first is the obvious, the shape. The amastigote is oval or spherical, while the promastigote is slender. And one difference between the organelles is the promastigote has an extending flagellum from the axoneme, while your amastigote has no flagellum. Next is the epimastigote. The average epimastigote measures approximately 9 to 15 micrometer in length, and the body is slightly wider than that of the promastigote. The large single nucleus is located in the posterior end of the organism. Diba kanina, the promastigote is its nucleus is in the center, while your epimastigote, its nucleus is located in the posterior end. Okay, so malapit sa end. Okay, so the kinetoplast is located anterior to the nucleus. Yan. And the undulating membrane, measuring half of the body length, forms into a free flagellum at the anterior end of the epimastigote. So the main difference between the epimastigote and the promastigote is that your epimastigote has the undulating membrane, okay? Meron siyang flagellum, pareho sila ng shape. and they are elongated, but the epimastigote has this undulating membrane. Okay. Next and last, the triple mastigote. The typical triple mastigote measures 12 to 35 long by 2 to 4 micrometer wide and may often assume S shape, C shape, or U shape. Pero in this picture, gipa elongate lang para mas makita yung mga organelles. Okay? So the posteriorly located kinetoplast from which emerges a full body length undulating membrane. Okay, so your tribomastigote has, like your epimastigote, nasha, flagellum, and undulating membrane. So the difference between them is the undulating membrane for your tribomastigote covers the whole body length, while your epimastigote only covers half of the body length. And the single large nucleus is located anterior to the kinetoplast, and the anterior free flagellum may or may not be present. So this is a table that is summarizing all of the disease and condition associated with leishmaniasis. So these terms would be ma-mention natin to sila mamaya, and it is very helpful for you to be familiarized with this table. Okay? So let's now go to the first hemoflagellate, the Leishmania species. Leishmaniasis is transmitted by the bite of an infected female sandflies. So the sandflies inject the infective stage. For example, for the sake of this example, sabihin natin promastigote ang kanyang infective stage. So when the sandfly has its blood meal, it will inject the promastigote into the bloodstream. The promastigote that reach the puncture wound are phagocytized by macrophages or other types of phagocytic cells. And after that, the promastigote transforms in these cells into the tissue stage of the parasite. So after makonsume ng mga phagocytic cell ang parasite, so they will not die. So they would be growing inside of the phagocytic cell, and then they would transform into a mastigote. So after yan class, because inside the cell they would be multiplying by simple division, and after that, dahil sa sobrang dami na ng parasite inside the cell would eventually explode, leading to the magkalat ang amastigote into the bloodstream. And after that, these amastigotes would now infect other cells. So that's the cycle of the parasite inside the human host. So the sandfly becomes infected by ingesting infected cells during blood meals. So when the sandfly, for example, this is an uninfected, so meaning wala siyang parasite. After taking a blood meal from an infected person, syempre, during blood meal, the sandfly would also be ingesting the phagocytes with the parasite. So, inside the sandfly, the parasite would explode from the cell, and then the amastigote would develop in the midgut of the sandfly, and then they would migrate into the proboscis of the sandfly, and then the cycle would again start. Okay, so on to our first group for Leishmania. Leishmania brasiliensis complex. The Leishmania brasiliensis complex of organism is a group of parasite comprised of Leishmania brasiliensis, Leishmania panamensis, Leishmania peruviana, and Leishmania guyanensis. The specimen of choice for identifying the mastigotes of Leishmania brasiliensis complex is a biopsy of the infected ulcer. Microscopic examination of the gem-sustained preparation should reveal the typical mastigotes. Restriction analysis of kinetoplast DNA, a technique referred to as schizodyme analysis, and isoenzyme pattern known as zymodin analysis can also be a method for diagnosing this parasite. Sandflies of the genera Lutsumia or Mia, kamo na bahala class, or Psychodopygus are responsible for transmitting the promastigotes of the species of the Leishmania brasiliensis complex into unsuspecting humans via a blood meal resulting in a skin bite. Okay? So these are the places where Leishmania brasiliensis is very common. Mucocutaneous leishmaniasis. The symptoms of an infection occur within a few weeks to months after transmission into a previously uninfected human. Meaning, hindi naman diretso na pag kinagat ka ng sandfly is bukas, you will immediately be having these symptoms. So, the incubation period for this is pwedeng few weeks and up to few months. Okay? Large ulcers in the oral or nasal mucosa, that is why this is called mucocutaneous, develop in a number of these patients after the initial invasion of the reticuloendothelial cells. Death is usually attributed to a secondary bacterial infection. Yung mga namamatay sa ganitong cases class, it's not it's not because of the parasite itself, but because of secondary bacterial infection. Because wounds like this are very prominent for bacterial infection. And the most widely used anti-leishmanial agent for the treatment of mucocutaneous leishmaniasis is with antimony compounds. Next group is the Leishmania donovanii complex. So under this group, this is comprised of Leishmania donovanii, Leishmania infantum, and Leishmania chagasi. So for the diagnosing for this parasite is the Montenegro skin test. This is a screening test similar to that of the tuberculin test. So if you are familiar with the PPD or the tuberculin test, it is used for the screening of large population at risk for infection caused by Leishmania species. Okay, ang kaning Montenegro skin test. It is not a good method though for diagnosing active diseases. Gem-sustained slides of blood, bone marrow, lymph node aspirates, and biopsies of the infected areas are better choices for demonstrating the diagnostic amastigote forms. Some consider the sternal marrow aspirate to be the specimen of choice. Pero class, since kung magkuha o bone marrow manggod sa patient, it is very invasive. So, there are methods such as buffy coat films, meaning ang buffy coat i-smear. So, pwede siya kato na lang gamiton kaysa sa bone marrow aspirate because it is less invasive. So, these are the names of the places which Leishmania donovanii complex is very prominent. So, unlike our Leishmania brasiliensis, Leishmania donovanii complex has two different vectors. So, Leishmania donovanii chagasi has Lutsumia, while the donovanii and infantum, its vector is the phlebotomous sandfly. Okay, so the important thing here, ang importante lang na ma-remember class is the vector and the subspecies of the complex. Okay na, hindi masyadong familiar the reservoir host. So, okay na ang basta importante is malaman yung vectors. Visceral leishmaniasis, this patient suffering from visceral. When we say visceral class, this pertains to the internal organs. So there is an involvement of the organs. Okay, also known as kala-azar or the dum-dum fever, or kamo bahala if dam-dam or dum-dum fever, kamo na dira. Often present with a nodule, nondescript abdominal illness, or hepatosplenomegaly. Ang hepatosplenomegaly class is, ang hepa is liver, spleen, megaly is pagdako, meaning there is an enlargement of the liver and your spleen. That is why kani class murag nagbutod ang mga patient. So, diarrhea, anemia, weight loss, and kidney damage can also be seen in these infections. And a characteristic darkening of the skin may be noted. Okay, for example, my patient that has leishmaniasis and there is a sudden darkening of the skin. So, pwedeng gawin itong basis para i-diagnose siya that he has or she has a Leishmania donovani complex infection. The symptom is referred to by the common disease name kala-azar, which means black fever. Okay? So the liposomal amphotericin B or ambisome is the drug of choice for treating visceral leishmaniasis. And it is important to note that donovani is capable of being transmitted person to person via blood transfusion. So, kailangan talagang i-screen ang blood before donating and transfusing. Okay? So, the third group is the Leishmania mexicana complex. So, under this group belongs Leishmania mexicana, Leishmania pifanoy, Leishmania amazonensis, Leishmania venezuelensis, and Leishmania garnhami. The definitive diagnosis of disease caused by members of the Leishmania mexicana complex is made by demonstrating the amastigote form in gem-sustained preparation of lesion biopsy material. Pwede naman din gumamit ng culture. We have the NNN. Demonstrate the promastigote stage of these organisms. So, we have still the serologic tests. As we have mentioned a while ago, we have the schizodim analysis, zymodim analysis, and nuclear DNA hybridization. So, these are the epidemiology for this complex. Okay, so masayo na class no because all 5 members of this complex only has one vector and one reservoir host. Okay, we have the Lutzumia. New World cutaneous leishmaniasis, also known as Basor or Chiclero ulcer. Cutaneous leishmaniasis is usually characterized by a single pus containing ulcer, which is generally self-healing. Pero approximately 40% of infections class nangyayari dito sa ears. Okay? And can cause serious damage to the surrounding cartilage. So, pruritus, this usually the first manifestation of this symptom is the pruritus or the intense itching of the bite area. After that, this would lead to this sequence, but it says that it is self-healing. So the treatment is pentavalent antimonials such as sodium stibogluconate are considered as drug of choice for treating infection related to the species comprising the Leishmania mexicana complex. For the fourth group, we have the Leishmania tropica complex. So under this group, we have the Leishmania tropica, Leishmania major, and Leishmania aethiopica. The laboratory diagnosis of Leishmania tropica consists of microscopic examination of gemsa-stained slides of aspiration of fluid underneath the ulcer bed for the typical mastigote. So for example, this is the ulcer. So mag-inject lang class dito. So pailalim, pero hindi masyadong mataas ang angle. Okay? So very small angle lang kay para cutaneous lang ang needle. And after that, a fluid should be aspirated under this, and that fluid would be examined under the microscope. So the Leishmania tropica complex primarily attacks the human lymphoid tissue of the skin. So cutaneous lang siya. Okay? Ayan, the epidemiology for the complex. Again, we only have one vector for this complex. So the three members of the complex has the vector of phlebotomus. Old World cutaneous leishmaniasis. This is also known as Old World leishmaniasis or Oriental sore or Baghdad or Delhi boil. Cutaneous leishmaniasis is characterized by one or more ulcers containing pus that generally self-heal. But of course, ayan, it may also manifest in these forms. As with other leishmaniasis, an effective treatment of Leishmania tropica complex is sodium stibogluconate or pentosam. Okay, to prevent and control leishmaniasis, we need only the public awareness. We need to educate them for the control and the protection against sandflies, and in addition, prompt treatment and eradication of infected ulcer. So kailangan class pag may nakitang symptoms is ipagamot agad, wag nang magintay na lalala pa ang mga symptoms. Ayan. So that is for our Leishmania discussion.